guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Heather. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, elementary, middle, and high school age. We are in our 12th year homeschooling this year. If you are not subscribed, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you are notified of all of my future videos. Today is going to be a collaboration that I am doing with Davine from Calm in the Chaos and Shauna from Homegrown Homeschool, all about avoiding homeschool mom burnout. So let's get started. I actually want to start with a really quick note about Vlogmas. Now, today is December 1st, and my hope is to participate in Vlogmas, but I plan to do it in my own way. I can never really follow the rules on anything. I want to share a lot of vlogs. I'd like to post every day. I think it's going to end up being not all vlogs, not daily vlogs. I don't think that I can really manage that. And I also have a lot of other content that I want to share with you during the month of December as we are preparing for 2023 and goals and homeschool planning for the second semester. So it's going to be a combo. Some other content and some vlogs. Now I am going to share a little bit about how to avoid homeschool mom burnout, because that is something that all homeschool moms face. Even veterans like me, there are definitely seasons that can be incredibly overwhelming, and figuring out strategies in order to move through that overwhelm is important. So I have a few tips that help me recenter me as I get into those busy seasons. The first tip that I have is to not do all of the things, or don't try to do all of the things. There are so many different wonderful options when it comes to homeschooling, all kinds of different curriculum and homeschooling methods and things that you want to add into your day, especially as you see other people do these things on Instagram or on YouTube and how they do homeschool in their families. You don't have to do all of the things. And in fact, if you are in a season where you feel overwhelmed, it would be very smart to drop most of the things and go right back to the basics and really bring your to-do list down to a very, very small chunk of subjects. Now, this doesn't just apply to homeschooling. This can be everything. This can be activities outside of the home that you are involved in, activities that your kids are involved in, or sports, or co-ops, or just events that you plan to do weekly. It can be things in your home. It can be, making every meal from scratch. There are seasons where those things can fit in easily to your life, but if you are starting to feel burned out due to homeschooling, what you really need to do is prioritize all of the things that you are doing. Now, we know that we can't do everything. It's just not possible. All of the things that I want to accomplish in a day, the list is very long. And in fact, in some of my planning videos, I will go through and just do a brain dump, and then I will accomplish maybe 4 of the things on the list. And that doesn't mean that I'm not being productive. It doesn't mean that I'm not getting things done. It just means that I need to be more realistic about my time and the margin that I have to accomplish everything, to accomplish all of the things that I need to accomplish in a day. So if you make a list of things and prioritize it, what is your most important thing? Now, obviously, homeschooling is very important to us as homeschoolers, but does that mean that you have to do every single elaborate project that is in your unit study? No. Does it mean that we have to do every single recipe that is in our Christmas Around the World recipe book? No, we might pick 3, and that will be plenty, even though there are tons of recipes that we can choose from. Does that mean that I'm not being successful? No, it just means that I have to change my expectations and reprioritize the things that are most important in my life. So I would encourage you, if you are in a season of overwhelm, to really look at what you are accomplishing each day. And are there things that you may not find value in, or your kids may not find value in the moment? Is it something that can be pushed off to a different season, or is it something that you have to take a hard look at and realize that maybe this thing is not right for your family? And it's challenging to do that, especially when you want to do so many things for your kids and with your kids, especially as home educators. We tend to fall into that comparison trap. And so it's very easy to add things to our list and not as easy to remove them. And that kind of brings me into my second tip, is to avoid comparison. Now, comparison is something that we all struggle with. It is something that, especially in the age of social media, you see what others are doing through their curated lens, what they want you to see, and you think that if you don't add those things, maybe your life doesn't measure up. If your child isn't doing X during their third grade year, perhaps you are behind. And that comparison really weighs on you. It's very easy to fall into that comparison trap no matter how long you've been homeschooling. I have mentioned several times now over the past couple of years, as I have been starting to prepare Emma's transcript for high school and thinking ahead to college and what I actually want to accomplish in her last couple of years of high school, it can be a real challenge to think, geez, have I done enough? Am I doing enough? Is she doing enough? And what you need to do, what you need to realize is that you don't have to compare your child or your homeschool or your home or your life with anybody else. You really want to focus on providing the best life that you can, the best education that you can for your individual family. Now, I say this a lot in my Facebook group that homeschooling is very, very individualized. Everything that I do is not going to work for another family. If you look at another homeschool family, it is going to be very difficult to find one that does everything the same way that you do. Even though there are different methodologies of homeschooling, if you look at Charlotte Mason homeschoolers, no two Charlotte Mason homeschoolers are going to do the same thing. It's not realistic. Every family makes their own choices. And so to compare yourself, your kids or your lifestyle or your home education with another family, it isn't fair to you, and it isn't real either. Because you have to recognize that there isn't another family that does the same things as you, that has exactly the same values, has exactly the same priorities, the same income, the same lifestyle, the same location. It's very different. Every family is different, and it is okay to let that go. Now, if you see something that looks really exciting that you think your kids are going to enjoy or you want to do, it's totally fine to try it out. But if it doesn't work, you can let it go. It doesn't mean that you have failed. It just means that that specific thing is not right for you, which is why I say don't try to do all of the things. Maybe add in a couple of new things, but don't try and add in all of the things. Just pick and choose what is going to work best for your family. And don't be afraid to let something go if it isn't working for you. My third tip for avoiding homeschool mom burnout is to remind yourself of your why. Why are you homeschooling? Now, I know that more recently in the past couple of years, homeschooling has kind of blown up because so many people feel that they have been forced into homeschooling for various reasons. And that can be a little bit more challenging because for me, I chose to homeschool when Emma was a baby. I started researching homeschooling when she was a baby, and I knew that I wanted to homeschool when she was a baby. So that was a really long time ago, and my why is going to be very different from somebody who pulled their kids out of school in the past year or so. And I think that if you feel like you have been forced into homeschooling, the homeschool mom burnout might happen more frequently, and that's mainly because you are not in a frame of mind to recognize homeschooling as what you want to do as opposed to what you've been made to do. So I think that shifting your thinking is going to be a big part of that. Even if you feel that you have been forced into homeschooling, make a list of the things that you enjoy about homeschooling. What is it that you are doing with your kids that you love? And that can be very helpful. Now, if you have been homeschooling right along, or you made the choice, prior to 2020 that you wanted to homeschool, remember why you chose to homeschool. Write down those original reasons and revisit them regularly. Now, when I do my homeschool planning, I do write out my why of homeschool planning. I also write out goals and things that I want to accomplish with my kids, and I revisit those as I'm going each month when I sit down and do my monthly review for our homeschool, and I sit down with my kids and do a review with them monthly. Now, those types of things will remind you of the joy of homeschooling and why you have made this decision for your family. It is not always easy. It really isn't. And everybody is going to struggle at some point. There is never a smooth sailing anything, whether it's homeschooling or just home in general or parenting. There are always going to be bumps in the road, but coming up with some sort of a strategy in order to overcome that challenge is important. And that could be anything. If you are entering a really busy season, maybe you back off from your academics. For us, we take from Thanksgiving to New Year's off every year. And it is a wonderful time for us to reconnect, to refresh ourselves, to think about the traditions that we love to enjoy during the month of December around the holidays and such. And it takes a lot of pressure off of me to make sure that we are meeting the deadlines that I have set for myself. Now, that is another thing. I think remembering that homeschooling is a marathon and not a sprint is really important. And when we look at it as a long period of time instead of really short chunks of time, it helps us to realize that we don't have to feed into a particular narrative about education. There isn't necessarily a specific standard that we need to meet. Based on your homeschool laws, obviously you have to do what the state law says for your homeschool. But just generally speaking, we are expected to make progress. And as homeschoolers, we understand that our kids move at very different levels, especially in the early elementary years. There are a wide range of reading and math and writing levels, and that's okay. And it's better to back off on some of those struggle areas and go slower when you hit blocks with your kids or with yourself as the teacher than to try and push through it. That will cause more stress, and it weighs on you as mom and as home educator. So I think that just recognizing that you have their entire homeschool career ahead, there is no rush to get to a specific point. And if you are in a season of overwhelm, it's okay to back off and to maybe go back to the basics. What are the core things that you want to cover in your homeschool year? Maybe you don't do, all of the history projects, all of the timeline stuff. Maybe you just go over the timeline, but you don't post pictures on your timeline. Or maybe you don't do a specific memorization for a month. Whatever it is, whatever you are struggling with, it's okay to take a step back and just go back to the basics and focus on making your rhythm and your home a happier place for you and for your kids, and not be stressed about falling behind or, again, comparing yourselves to other homeschoolers or public school families, or, stopping a specific sport or stopping a music lesson or stopping the dance class that's 4 days a week, whatever it is, it's okay to take a step back. It doesn't mean that if you say no to something now, it means that it's no forever. It just means that right now it's not feasible. And we all have to make those decisions for ourselves and for our families. One thing that I do that I find incredibly helpful is to sit down with my kids monthly and go over what is ahead in the month and really get a feel for how they are doing. Is it something that they are super passionate about? If it is, then obviously we want to make room for it. If it's something that they're just kind of like, it's okay, I enjoy it, but it's not my passion, maybe it's okay to say no or to drop out of something in that season, especially if you are feeling burned out. I think that oftentimes when we commit to things, we want to follow through with those commitments, and I completely understand that. But if you are in a season of being burned out and overwhelmed and you have committed to all of these things, it is not going to help you to finish out that commitment. And it would be better to stop than to continue trying to push through and have all of those fights at home and be stressed out. All of those things, it's not necessary, but you just have to make the choice if you want to do that. Now, there are all kinds of other reasons that people can be burned out, and sometimes the answer is to put your kids in a couple of classes a week and take a little pressure off of yourself. And if that's the case, that is okay. You have to do what is right for your family without thinking about how others are going to view you. And so that is definitely something to remember, because I think oftentimes when we start doing one thing, or if we make a particular decision, we feel like we need to defend it. But why? There is no reason that we need to defend it to somebody else unless it's, our spouse and you are coming up with a specific decision that you want for your family or whatever. Obviously, you want to talk about it with your spouse, but if it's family members that aren't living in your home, if it is friends that if it's homeschool friends that or neighbors or public school people, it doesn't matter. Those people's opinions of what you choose to do should not impact your decision-making process. The last tip that I have is to put yourself on the calendar. And I know that this is a hard one because it's something that I struggled with for a really, really long time. I don't know, maybe other people don't struggle with this, but I found that even when I put myself on the calendar, I wouldn't keep that appointment. I would not make it a priority. If something else came up, I would just cancel it. And then I would just move on, even though I knew in my heart that I needed that time. And sometimes it can be really hard for moms, especially, to take the time that they need to renew themselves. And I think it's really important. I don't think it's a selfish thing. I do think that, sitting down and doing the things that give you energy is important, whether that is sitting down and doing Bible study, whether it is reading, whether it is going out and meeting a friend for coffee and decompressing and talking about how you are doing and enjoying life that way. Maybe it's a book club or a date with girlfriends, once a month, like a supper club or something like that. Whatever it is, it's okay to put yourself on the calendar. And I think it's important to do that. And it's very easy as moms and as homeschool moms to put ourselves way at the bottom of the list because we are taking care of everybody else's priorities instead of our own. Now, obviously, you have to take care of your kids. You have to take care of your house. Everybody needs to eat and have clean clothes. But is your minimum standard of care too high? Can you reduce that a little bit to make time for something that is fun and helps you rejuvenate and renew your mind? those are things that you need to think about. It's okay to do that. For me personally, I put a planning day on my calendar every month, and it's on a Thursday. It's not on a Saturday when my husband is home. It's on a Thursday. It's a light day of school for my kids. My kids are older. My older two are high school and middle school, so they are able to kind of manage themselves. And Lucy is still so young that her school does not take me that long. And I know everybody is not going to be like, oh, a planning day sounds so rejuvenating. But for me, it gives me that time when I know that I have time set aside where I can sit down and brain dump and get all of my thoughts out of my head and on paper, all of the things that I want to do, all of the things that I hope to accomplish, all of the homeschool things that are constantly in my mind. For me, getting all of that down on paper is helpful. And then I'm able to go and see, well, these are all of the things that I want to do, which are the most important, and then actually scheduling those out in our family calendar and making decisions as to where I can say yes and where I need to say no. That kind of thing is very helpful for me. Now, that may not be, that's not necessarily self-care for everybody, but for me, it is a time that I have set aside that I know, even if I'm not maybe planning, I can just decompress. I know it's going to be a lighter day. It's a day that I can just relax a little bit, and that is important to me. And then the other thing is, when my kids have particular activities outside of the house that I may not be bringing them to, my husband does a lot of evening or weekend activities. When that happens, I don't always try and catch up on all of the things that I haven't been able to do. Now, I do catch up on things quite a bit. I tend to use those blocks of time for cleaning or projects that I want to work on when the kids are out of the house, and it's just easier for me to focus on those things. But there are also times when I just say, no, I don't need to be productive in this hour of time. It is okay for me to sit down, to have a cup of tea or a glass of wine, to watch YouTube, to read a book, to watch a movie. It is okay to have leisure time. Leisure is difficult for me. I feel like I constantly need to be moving and doing something productive. And so sometimes it is hard to sit and relax, but it's needed. Your body needs that time. Your body cannot constantly be going. It's not healthy to constantly be going. And so if you have any pockets of time where the kids are out of the house and you may want to try and do something productive, it's okay to sit and just sit. Sometimes I will just sit down and do nothing for like 30 minutes, and 30 minutes goes by and I'm like, wow, I've done absolutely nothing, but you feel better for it. So those are my tips. I hope they were helpful. Homeschool mom burnout is a real thing, and it is challenging to get over, and it's all well and good to hear my advice and say, okay, well, that might work for her, but it's not going to work for me. And I understand that not everything works for everybody, but I do think that sitting down and prioritizing your time and the things that you have to do in a day versus what you want to do in a day is very helpful. I actually, several weeks ago, ran my creating margin workshop, and we talked a lot about how much time is actually in a day, and trying to do habit stacking and making sure that we're using our time as efficiently as possible. I know I'm not the only one that wishes we had like another couple of hours in the day. That would be helpful, but obviously that's not going to happen. And so what my advice for everyone in the workshop was to really deep dive on what you are doing in a day and what is the most important and what you can let go of. And there are a whole array of things that you can let go of. It helps to think about what that minimum standard of care is for your home. What is the minimum that you need to get done in your homeschool? And then once you have taken away all of the things that you do outside of what the minimum standard is, then you can start piecing the things back in that are important to you. And again, it's okay if you let it go for a season. That doesn't mean that you will never do that thing again. It just means that you need to take a little bit more time for self-care. You need to take a little bit more time to rejuvenate yourself and remind yourself of why you are homeschooling. And taking a step back is not a bad thing. We all have to do it sometimes, and I think that we try really hard to make sure that we are getting all of the things done, but just remembering that we don't have to do all of the things is important as well. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. If you have questions or want to talk to me, you can email me. My contact form is in the description box. As always, I love to chat with other homeschool moms and encourage them. This is something that I'm very passionate about, making sure that you are doing your most important things, but not all of the things. So if you do want to chat with me, definitely email me or leave me a comment. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to check the playlist link in the description box where the other people that are participating in this collaboration will leave their own tips for avoiding homeschool mom burnout. Yes, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.